And we're back. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Unhinged Vibes Podcast with your host. My name is Mr. Caramel Thunder, and I'm here with...
What's up, everybody? It is your boy. We are back indeed. It's your boy Coastal, a.k.a. Coast Dynasty, a.k.a. Coast Malone, a.k.a. Mr. 10 out of 10. Let's go, baby. I'm excited.
Oh, it is good to be back recording. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Steven Tagal, a.k.a. Nelson, is not here right now. He's got to deal with some stuff. So we wish you were here. We wish you were recording with us. But this episode is going to be dedicated to you and your fams because we miss you and we wish you were here with us. Yeah. So it's sad that he's not here to record this because I know he would enjoy these topics. But it's okay. There's always next time. There's always next time. Now, just a quick heads up. This is going to be a two-part episode. I'm just going to get right out of the gate. Two-part episode. Part one, we're going to be talking about House of the Dragons or Hot D. And then part two, we're going to go over Rings of Power. So make sure, if you want to hear our opinions on both of them and how we want to compare them to each other, you listen to both. Because you got to listen to both of them in order to know where we're coming from. Don't just listen to one without listening to the other. Okay, so that's just a heads up. This is going to be a two-part episode. Okay, and then later on, there'll be another third episode. It's going to be about a brand new Magic the Gathering set that is very much dear to both of us.
Near and dear to both of our hearts. Very much dear to both of us, okay? But yet again, this episode is going to be all about Hot D, House of the Dragon, the new Game of Thrones prequel or spin-off. But before we get to that, let's just catch up. How you doing, buddy? I'm doing good, man. I'm really excited to get back. I know we had a bit of a hiatus. We were away for a couple of months there, maybe more than a couple of months.
Maybe, yeah. I think we were close to like maybe 4, maybe 5. Yeah, it's been a while, man.
I mean, time's a bit of a flat circle, like I was saying before. Yeah. Shockingly enough, my second episode that I'd ever appeared on was only a year ago.
Yeah.
And it felt like an eternity ago.
Yeah, so, that's like a long time ago, man.
Woo. So, I'm excited to be back. How about yourself?
Honestly, it feels good to record again. It's a big stress reliever.
Yeah.
It really is. Lately, I started a new job, and it's just busy. So it's good to be back. It's good to be behind the mic because this is quality time.
Yeah.
This is the good stuff. Other than that, how's your family? You all good?
I'm doing good. I mean, my family, same old. The boy is who remember if for our audience, he had showed up for a special episode of Squid Game where we reviewed it together. Mm-hmm. He is now 1 month away from doing his driver's ed. So
he's a grown ass man now.
Yeah, blink and you miss it, man. So I mean, my family's sort of slow and steady and consistent. How about your family?
My family is good. My girl turned 1 a while ago, so I think she's now like 13 months. She's walking. We are also expecting another one. Let's say there it is. We're also expecting another one. So we're very excited about that. I'm hoping it's a boy. The first one, she didn't get any like sickness or morning sickness or anything. This one, it hit her like a truck.
Oh, really?
So I'm hoping like that's a boy. It's a different sign or something like that, right? So we'll see.
That's your smart ass boy in there already, causing havoc.
Hey, if I can get it done, girl, guy, the first two, man, like I'm good.
Yeah, of course, healthy, 10 fingers, 10 toes first. But yeah, I mean, you want one of each, right?
You know what?
You do.
There's a joke where like like dads want to be like, hey, you know what, like. Doesn't matter. I just want the baby to be healthy, but low key, you're like,
you want a boy.
I'm okay if it's not completely healthy, but it's a boy.
It's a boy.
It's like, oh
you
my
want the
gosh.
boy. Yeah.
Right? But no, either or. Yeah, I just hope that the baby's healthy. But I cannot wait. The due date's gonna be in April, so when that comes, we'll find out more. Yeah, man. I'm just glad that we didn't wait too long to have the next one.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're still in like that baby mode. So it's just an easy transition to the second one.
Yeah, you're moving right back to it. Yeah. Bang them all out as soon as you can. Hey, for myself, the Dynasty and Coast Dynasty hit it and quit it on the first try. And that's why I'm one and done because I've already got my boy. I've got my Dynasty done.
That's good.
So
that's good, buddy. I like that one pop shotgun. That's good. We're okay. You're winning. You're winning at that one. I like that. Let's see here. So we talked about how we doing. We talked about our hiatus. Just know our episodes, like before we aim for like one a week. This one,
we're going to release them when we release them.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest with you guys. We're going to release them whenever we record them. That's why we're recording multiple episodes in one session.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out, we're still trying to get a feel for what is going to work and what's going to be sort of sustainable. Like we see, I mean, now that we're all sort of family men and dads and, you know, we got, you know, unfortunately real life priorities that sort of supersede this as much as we enjoy doing this. We still want to make sure that it's something sustainable that we can sort of keep going and we don't burn out or we don't, you know, lose a love for this, because this is supposed to be a stress reliever for us, right? I mean, forget all of the money and all of the endorsements and all of the fame that we get from running this podcast. Outside of that, you know, we still have to sort of keep grounded and understand what's important. And what's important is the content, and we want to make sure that that's consistent.
Like, we don't want this to feel like a show. You want this to feel like a conversation you would have with your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we want, and that's what we hope that you get from it, right? Because yet again, this is all about conversation.
Yeah.
We know if we talk about this on the podcast or if we talk about this in person, it's the same conversation, but we might as well just record it and see how you guys feel about it too.
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly. Just trying to get a little bit of feedback from the outsiders and from all of our listeners and see exactly what they're thinking as well, because it's always interesting to sort of get new viewpoints.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely, right? But let's get into our first topic, or today's topic for the episode is going to be House of the Dragon by HBO. Now,
otherwise known as House of Dragons.
Yeah, House of Dragons. House of Dragon. Everyone's saying Game of Thrones. Everyone's saying Game of Thrones.
Or Game of Thrones.
Or if, well, for people who don't know House of the Dragon or whatever, and they want people to get back into it, like, oh, there's a new Game of Thrones. Like, oh, really? Yeah, sure.
And HBO's doing the same thing because they use the same theme song.
I'm glad they use the same theme song.
When that theme song came back, just started thumping.
Oh my!
I was excited.
I was actually worried because, oh, by the way, if you don't know it yet, this is gonna be all spoilers. This is gonna be all spoiler talk.
Right.
It's all opinion stuff. So please, if you have not seen it yet, I want you to watch it. Yes. I want you to watch it. I want you to enjoy watching it as well. And then when you're ready, come back, listen to our episode. Let us know what your opinion is, and let us know if our opinion sucks or if you agree with it.
So at the time of this recording, we're at episode 4. So watch the first. No, there's 4.
No, there's 5.
Wait, we're going to have to pause now. There's 4 episodes.
No, bro, there's 5 because House of the Dragon.
Oh, we're halfway through.
We're halfway through. Is one is always going to be one ahead. It's always going to be one ahead.
I set the format last week, and it says 4 episodes.
Crave.
So we are into episode 5.
Episode 5, because I know that halfway.
We are at the halfway point of both shows.
Yeah. So, first off,
professionalism.
I don't like that House of the Dragon has 10 episodes and Rings of Power has 8. I don't like that. I wish we were in the teens for both.
Oh, absolutely.
I really do wish we were in the teens for both.
Absolutely. So right off the hop, we could use more for different reasons, I think, but we could definitely use more of the show, of each show.
Yeah. But we'll get there for both of the series. But right now, House of the Dragon time. Okay, first off, I was very worried during the first episode when there was no theme.
You know what?
There was no opening cinematic. You know,
can we pause and then we'll come back to that just real quickly? Let's talk about sort of going into House of the Dragon.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
First of all, for anyone who hasn't been familiar, because I don't even know if we reviewed any Game of Thrones during our previous episodes, but
no, we didn't.
Where are you coming from? How familiar are you with the world of George R.R. Martin? Did you read the books? Are you an avid show watcher? Did you not watch anything? Because it would have been interesting to see Noslin here, because Noslin's not watched any of the episodes.
Yeah, so he's like newcomer view.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see him watch these episodes with no background, right? Mm-hmm. So for yourself, how far along are you with this? How deep into the lore are you?
For me, I've watched the whole season of Game of Thrones 4 or 5 times, each episode 4 or 5 times straight, marathoned it through. So I know a lot of knowledge of the show.
Right.
I know a lot of knowledge of the, in every season they have a, I think it's a 3 to 4 hour long history of lore that the actors from the show narrate.
Right.
And it's all on YouTube for free as well.
Okay.
And right now, I think it's close to like 25, 30 hours worth of lore and backstory. And one of those lore and backstories was from, I think it was season 1 or season 2. And it was, was it Viserys? Viserys, there we go. Yeah. The guy who plays him in the first season of Game of Thrones actually narrated this first season of House of the Dragon, like the plot of it, of how his ancestors danced away the dragons and their power and this and that. So it's already this is already known in the first season of Game of Thrones if you watch the special features of it. So I've watched a bunch of the backstory, watched the TV show. I've not read the books, but I do have them as audiobooks. Okay. And I still need to listen to them all. Right now I'm listening to the Silmarillion right now as an audible book. Yeah. That's crazy to listen to. I'm going to tell you right now, man. Yeah. That's a crazy to listen to. But I still need to read the books. So I'm not a book guy. I'm not going to say I'm ever a book guy. Right. So my view is everything that's been published by TV media, essentially, right. Or any of the theory or history videos on YouTube that you can find. Okay. And I've watched a lot of history of Westeros, history of Targaryens, a lot of backstory stuff. So I know a lot of stuff, but that's because of people who've read the books or making YouTube videos about them. Exactly. And that's how I learned the lore.
And then that's how you get the expanded sort of beyond what they show on Crave or HBO Max.
Yeah. Now, what about yourself? What's your backstory with Westeros?
With the world of Westeros. So basically, when I heard that HBO had optioned this new show called Game of Thrones, I was really excited about it because I'd seen sort of the internet rigmarole, like how they were excited about this show coming up, and I'd never heard of George R.R. Martin and never heard of any of these. So I thought, you know what, let me read the book. So I read book 1. I read Game of Thrones going into Game of Thrones season 1.
Nice.
And what I found was I really enjoyed season 1 as a TV show, but thought this is a really fantastically made TV show that I would have loved more had I not known Ned Stark was going to get decapitated. Had I not known. And so I said to myself, you know what? I am not going to read the books. I'm going to absorb this and I'm going to enjoy this as a television show first. And boy, did that pay off at the Red Wedding. Oh, when the Red Wedding happened and I didn't see that coming. Woo! Right? Like that. So for me, going into House of the Dragon, I thought prior to going into the last season of Game of Thrones, it was the best television show of all time. It was my favorite television show of all time. It had usurped The Wire for my personal favorite show of all time going into the last season. Mm-hmm. And then, as with everyone else, of course, they fumbled the ball on the last season. It wasn't so much how it ended, but just that it just felt really rushed, right? Yeah. Like I would have been okay with how it ended if it took them 12 episodes and not 8 to do, and just instead of jumping from place to place, like the allure and the beauty of Game of Thrones was always in the margins, right? Like you understand when something big happens, you understood everything that led up to it and why someone would fall for a betrayal or why someone would do the betrayal. There's always little Easter eggs and hints. You saw the voyage to the destination, and you just missed all of that in the last season. Yeah. So I was very distraught. Like it was weird because when Game of Thrones first came out, the boy, my not so little one, was just a little tyke, and he was in Muay Thai. And the Game of Thrones theme song comes on as a sort of like a techno remix while he was working out doing his warm-ups. And my son yells at me, "Dad, it's Game of Thrones!" And then all of the parents looked at me like I was the worst father in the world because they're like, "How does your 8-year-old know the theme song to Game of Thrones? The show that has brother and sister, humping each other in season 1, episode 1, right?" So that took a little bit of explaining. The reason why is because it's my phone ring. It was my ringtone. So
that's a good ringtone, man.
Yeah,
that's a good ringtone.
So that's where I'm coming from. I was coming into House of the Dragon as a guy who thoroughly loved everything about the TV show and had been very much dismayed and disappointed that it had completely fallen off the radar for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, nobody really talked about Game of Thrones anymore after that last season, right? It was really unfortunate.
It sucks because, like you said, Game of Thrones should be a S-tier TV show.
Yeah.
But because of the last season, people don't put it as an S-tier.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, so you're totally forgetting about the other 7 seasons and only judging it on the last one? For me, that's an unfair opinion. I still think it's an S-tier. Yeah, the ending is messed up and it's rushed, and the filming of certain episodes was, in my opinion, a horrible choice on how they actually filmed it thematically.
Yeah.
Like the fight at Winterfell.
It was so dark.
I'm like, oh, we want to mimic how you can't see if you were there. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but it's okay if you're fighting and you can't see. But as a viewer, I want to see what's happening.
Yeah.
I want to see everything going on. It took me out of of being there. It made me feel like, wait, I need to turn my, like, when I remember watching it at my buddy's place.
Yeah.
And we paused it. We're like, did you change your settings on your TV? Because it's really dark. So he upped his brightness, and then we hit play, and it was the exact same. So we're like, it's the episode, and everyone's like, oh man.
There's a way to convey that sort of chaos in the darkness while also properly showing it to us as a television show, right?
Yeah.
It does sort of take away from that escapism. I do agree with you.
Yeah. So it is fair that it is an S tier, and it's okay if people judge on the last one, but people also need to remember, like, the 7 seasons before that were amazing.
The 7 seasons before were a masterclass in television, in storytelling, in videography, in basically anything you needed to do as a television show. And then they just spiked the football at the 5-yard line. And that's unfortunate, right? And that's the thing, is a lot of people are saying, well, the last season ruined it. And I disagree, but I don't have a defense.
My defense for it is, for every episode that was released in season 8, if there was an episode in between each of the episodes, I think it would have been probably the best one.
Yeah.
I think if they added in just a 30-minute, just a quick one between every single episode release, I think it would flesh the story out a lot more. Because if you think about it, between seasons 1 and 7, when someone would go from Winterfell all the way to King's Landing, it would take them 2-3 seasons.
Yeah, this one, it took an episode and a half, and then all of a sudden they're there. Yeah, so it's unfortunate that that's how it turned out. And so that's where I was coming from, is that I had high expectations of House of the Dragon, but I also am coming off a really, really big disappointment on how it ended. So,
and in my opinion, I think that only benefits House of the Dragon even more, because I personally put the bar low. I put the bar low because I based it off of the latest season of Game of Thrones. Yeah. And I was like, okay, it's okay, sweet. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. Hopefully it's good.
I'd put the bar high, but I was very ready to be disappointed. So I was like, man, this has got to be classic Game of Thrones. But I have a sinking feeling it's going to not be classic Game of Thrones. Yep. And so that's where I was coming from.
Okay. Now, we know where we're coming from. Now let's know where we're coming from the show. Now, if you don't know where House of Dragons takes place, technically the show said it's 72. A lot of people even the show writers, like, it's 200 years before Game of Thrones.
It's 200 years before Game of Thrones. What they basically said was it's 172 years before
Aegon went mad.
No, it was 172 years before how am I forgetting her name? Targaryen.
Daenerys.
Daenerys, thank you. I don't know how I forgot that. Dany. Yeah, before she was born.
So okay, there we go.
200 years before.
It literally says her name too in the beginning, which I'm glad it did, because they gave you, like, this is going to be like Game of Thrones. Here's her name.
Yeah. This is her family. It gives you a frame. It also gives fans of the show who are not familiar with the books, it gives them a frame of reference. It says, this is 200 years before what you watched.
Yeah. And let's just say, right out of the gate, I was mesmerized. Right out of the gate, they gave you a dragon. I was expecting a dragon later on, maybe near the end of the episode 1 as like a tease, right?
Yeah.
You hear the flaps or you see fire and then end of episode. No, they tossed it right in your face. But like, we got a bigger budget.
Yeah.
Let's just give you what you're here to see.
And also, it was also a little bit of, you know what? The way I looked at it was, we know you were disappointed by the last season. We're coming at you hard right away. Bang, bang, bang. Here's your dragons. Get ready. This is classic Game of Thrones. This is not last season of Game of Thrones. Be ready for this to be what you loved about the show, not what disappointed you about the show.
And one thing you can clearly see right out of the gate was George R. R. Martin had his hands all over House of the Dragon. And still has his hands all over. Like, he's part of the team who's making this.
Yeah.
He helped write the first episode, everything. Where in Game of Thrones, he was like an advisor later on. He wasn't even part of it. He told the showrunners in the last season of, okay, this is what's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. Just jot notes because he hasn't written the book yet.
Yeah.
And they did their own thing. But this one, he already wrote the lore for it. This one, there's already story. Right now, he's got to put it as film.
And that's the thing, too, is that I did see, now I didn't notice it myself personally, but from when I would look online and I would read reviews and I would read sort of the long form essays, that's what I tend to do with shows that I enjoy, is I will take in podcasts and read sort of show reviews and essays about stuff. And what a lot of people were saying, especially the ones who are hardcore book lovers, was the show did start its degradation in quality not at the last season, but when they started deviating from the books, because that was when they no longer had a source material. They just had crib notes.
Yeah.
And then they didn't have that rich tapestry to sort of pull from. They just sort of had to fill it out on their own, and then it kind of exposed them. Now, I didn't see it myself, but you really saw it in the last season. So,
now for the first 5 episodes, we are technically halfway through. What are your thoughts on the first 5 episodes?
10 out of 10, baby.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. Oh, man. We are back. Game of Thrones is back,
baby.
Oh,
my goodness. Hell yes, we are back.
Game of Thrones is back. Like, just everything that you wanted to see about it. The intrigue, the politics, sort of, the weird incest that tends to always happen with Game of Thrones shows. Everything that comes out of it. Just how nobody is really, like, you find yourself rooting for people who are not good people, because most of the time the people in Westeros aren't great people. They're pretty, I guess that's a microcosm for real life, right? Everybody's a sort of shade of gray. Nobody's purely an angelic, altruistic type of person. So everybody lives and acts in their own self-interest. It's just a lot more blatant and a lot more sort of, I'm not gonna say evil, but it's a lot more self-serving in the world of Westeros. They cast it perfectly. I thought, shout outs to Millie Alcock and to Emily Carey, who play Rhaenyra and Alicent, because to my knowledge, I believe this is the last that we see of them.
Yes. Episode 6 is where they do a 10 to 15 year, 10 year time jump. Yep. So it's going to be new actors playing both those characters, but everyone else stays the same.
Yeah. Oh, and Laenor, who we only saw today.
Yeah.
Or we only saw in episode 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really, really like Millie Alcock, who plays Rhaenyra. I wasn't sold on her after episode 1.
Okay.
But I think that was more because, she's in real life 22, and she was trying to portray like a really young girl, and I maybe just was not buying that. But after episode 1, they sort of age her up now to be sort of she's now in her late teens, and then she's, a young adult, and more closely to what her actual age is. And then, she really flourished in those episodes after. Really, really enjoyed the way she played Rhaenyra. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after that. But the show, the special effects and everything were fantastic. What about you? Initial first thoughts of House of the Dragons?
Initial first thoughts. I was blown away. They gave you new angles of the same locations, but they felt like you've never seen it before.
Yeah, like the Iron Throne was bigger.
Yeah, and you know what? It made sense as to why the Iron Throne is bigger now. And why it was so small in the original Game of Thrones. Yeah. Because now it's the regular Iron Throne. It's Targaryens on the throne. But when new houses came into the seat of the king, they wanted to get rid of all the dragon motif.
Yeah.
So they got rid of all the swords, they got rid of all the dragon heads, everything, and they just made it the chair.
Yeah.
They focused on the chair. And I've seen a lot of YouTubers explain why in the show of Game of Thrones, they're like, of 1,000 swords of Aegon's enemies, there's not really 1,000. It's probably a few hundred, but it looks very close to 1,000.
Yeah, that's
very much so.
That's 1,000 swords and one hammer.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 1,000 swords and a hammer. I really like how they did it, where the swords overflowed and went onto the stairs and everything around. And it's literally it's a death trap going to the chair.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I thought it was amazing, breathtaking how they filmed it. The music brought me back instantly.
Oh yeah,
the music brought me back instantly. Yeah. Seeing the types of dragons were great.
Yeah. Going back to what you were talking about when going into episode 1 where they did a cold open and they didn't actually have an intro.
Yeah.
You were talking about no theme music. How did you want to expand on that a little bit?
I was waiting. I knew there was going to be a cold open.
Yeah.
But I was also expecting that there was going to you were going to hear the dun dun dun, dun somewhere, and it fade to black, and then you see the new intro.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it, and all of a sudden an hour went by, and it just I'm like, whoa, there was no intro. And then when episode 2 came in, and then you heard it, that's when I'm like, now I know why they held off on it.
Yeah.
Because it ate at you for a whole week.
It did.
And then when you hear it on episode 2, I guarantee you I wasn't the only one who went like absolutely nuts over it. I'm like, whoa. And then like you'd pause it, you'd see like, oh, that's a symbol of this. And they literally made it into the Targaryen family tree. I'm like, this is awesome.
It come out, you see it come down, and then you see two trees, two of the same branch get back together.
Yeah, and then it spreads out. Yeah. And like every single episode 2, 3, 4, and 5, you see the theme change because things happen. You see now certain characters are now connected. There's a line going somewhere that you don't see yet, and everything, right? So I think it's the fact that they used this original score for the intro was a very smart bet, because that brought you back to the best of the best of Game of Thrones.
What I loved about it is in the first episode they didn't allude to it at all, or they didn't have that opening at all. Mm-hmm. But as the show went on, the background music would hint at it. Like you would hear a score, but then would have that dun 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 dun, and then it's like, wait a second, that sounds oddly familiar. And then the episode ends, and you're like, man, I think we're back. We're back. And then the first thing you hear, episode 2, boom, and it's like, I leapt out of my seat. I was like, oh, we're all the way back. Game of Thrones is back, baby. So
it was absolutely great. It was absolutely great.
Yeah, that was absolutely the right way to play it.
Now, in regards to the casting, like I was actually very worried, because before the show even aired, I was like, Matt Smith.
Are you a Doctor Who guy?
I'm a huge Doctor Who guy.
Okay.
That's why I was worried, because I know Matt Smith is a great actor. But I'm like, because I saw like when they released shots of the characters when they were filming, and he had the white wig on, I was like, oh, dude, I love Matt. He was my doctor.
Okay.
He was my doctor. He was the first Doctor Who that I've watched. But I'm like, is he going to be a good, like, Daemon Targaryen? I don't really know, man. So, but I'm going to tell you right now, that first episode, he won me over.
Yeah.
When you hear him talking to the Gold Cloaks, and then they wreck. They wreck.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm like,
that first scene, man, when
he sold me.
Yeah.
He sold me, and I think him alone sells all of House of Dragons. Like him alone.
Yeah, he laid down that gauntlet in that first scene. Now, like I said, I'm not much of a Doctor Who person. I watched one season of Doctor Who. So my doctor is Christopher Eccleston, and I'm one of the... there are dozens of us. There are dozens of us who believe in the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I came into this knowing Matt Smith was a doctor. I knew that's what he was known for, but I didn't really have any sort of connection to him. So Funny enough, though, the one character who I did have a bit of a past sort of connection to is Rhys Ifans, the guy who plays Otto Hightower, the former Hand.
Oh yeah, wasn't he in the Adam Sandler movie?
He's in Little Nicky.
Yeah.
But I remember him. He was the creepy kicker from The Replacements.
Really?
Yeah, he played he was like a soccer hooligan that they just brought in. So that's what so I remember him from Little Nicky. I remember him from that. I remember him from Notting Hill, where he was again the comedic sort of sidekick, right? Or the comedic side character. And so I was like, man, how am I going to take the Hand of King seriously? And it really was. It was cool because I could barely recognize him.
Yeah.
But then the one time, and I don't know if they meant to play it off for laughs or not, but when he's trying to tell the king what he heard about Daemon and Rhaenyra, and he's like, they were found in a house of pleasure.
Yeah.
Coupling. And I was like, holy man, you sound so creepy. And I was losing it laughing. I don't know if that's the way they meant to play it, but it worked really well for me. So
you can tell though he was trying to say it without trying to say it.
Yeah, he's like, come on, don't make me say it.
Yeah, like he you know that if he said it, his head would have been gone.
Yeah. But the king was also like, look, man, that's a
big accusation.
That's a big, so you better say it.
Yeah.
You better say it because I don't want you later on saying, oh, that's not what I meant.
Yeah,
No,
I don't want any gray area.
Yeah, say it.
What did they do?
Yeah, absolutely. He said, say it plainly.
Yeah. So,
and he found them coupling.
Man, like how he acts his scene throughout the first 5 episodes, amazing, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can tell that he is a very wise, experienced man, and how he knows how to play the Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
He knows how to play the game.
Yeah, and he has been. But the funny thing and the good thing is that Viserys called him on it.
Yeah?
Yeah, like you were opportunistic. And you know what? Alicent was absolutely vital in me getting over the death of my wife.
Yeah, and he played that like a chip.
You put her there.
Yep. Oh,
you put her there. So, yeah. So on the one hand, thank you, but I can't trust you anymore. So,
and it was a smart choice for him to get rid of him.
Oh,
to be honest, it was a smart choice.
But remember, that it wasn't him. It was
It
was Rhaenyra.
Yep.
She had a card to play there because she was like, "Hey, why is this guy spying on me?"
Yeah.
Right, and then Viserys is like, "Yeah, that's a good point.
I'll marry whoever."
Yeah, I'll do this, but he's got to go.
It was an ultimatum.
Yeah,
yet again, he chose his family line.
Yeah,
and smart.
And she played her cards perfectly. It's like, you know what? I'm going to get a guy off the board, right? You know what?
Yep.
I will do this, but this guy, he's got to go. So,
and he went for it because, in my opinion, that was his best choice.
Yeah,
100% his best choice.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I actually like about this, that we even talked about a few minutes ago, that we hated in season 8 was the time jumping.
Yeah,
but here it works beautifully.
It does, and it just takes a little bit of it's been 3 years, right?
Yeah, it's nice because they episode 1 they showed everybody, they introduced all the characters, this and that, and then they planted a seed.
Yeah.
In episode 2, you see the seed instantly grow and you understand why.
Yeah.
And then they plant another seed.
Yeah.
In episode 3, that plant grows.
Yeah.
So I can see that every single episode is a domino into the next one until something big is going to happen. And when they tried to do that on season 8 of Game of Thrones,
it wasn't.
It was really hit and miss.
No, yeah, they're layering the things in well, is what they're doing.
Yes,
right?
and I appreciate the time jumps. I actually do.
Yeah,
I really do, because even though between episode 3 and 4 was like a year or 2 years or something like that, where Aegon, Viserys' firstborn son, in his new marriage, was a baby, and now they're celebrating his first year name day.
Yeah,
you're like, you can see the tension on everybody's face. You can see the two teams slowly starting to be created.
Yeah, because remember, at this point, like, Rhaenyra is still the heir. Like, she's still set to be the next queen, right?
Yep. And for a full year, her dad has been bringing suitors for her, and she's been denying all of them.
That was a fantastic scene.
That was a good scene, man. That was a really good scene. Yeah. Oh, man. And then on episode 5, we get our wedding.
Yeah.
Or supposed to be the pregame
to
the wedding.
And then it ended up being just a quick get the shit done.
Let's get it done so the name sticks.
Yeah.
Right? Since episode 5 is freshly in our minds, what do you think about episode 5?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. It's just each episode has been better than the previous one, and it has really been building. It's been building really well. I think that there's a lot of hints to where we're going to go next, which I really enjoy. I loved this episode. It had everything that sort of you're looking for. I really felt for Laenor, especially when like that. Yeah, he's been dealt just an awful hand.
Horrible. Yeah,
and he thought, well, you know what? This is sort of the best that we can do. I'm going to marry this girl. We're going to do our duties to the kingdom. But she's offering me a chance to sort of live my life, right, with my lover, and she's going to do the same. So, this is sort of the best case scenario for me. And then, Sir Criston kind of loses his mind.
In all honesty, I think I totally see where Sir Criston Cole was coming from.
I see it too. But
right, like even though. Yeah, in the show, it's only been like you only see like maybe an hour of them together, but in the life of the in the show itself, it's been 3 years already.
Yeah, he wanted to marry her. He wanted to marry her and run away. That's where he thought this was going.
And in episode, was it 1 or 2? He wanted to be a knight.
Yeah,
it's all about being a knight, building his name. And then in episode 5, he was more than willing to throw it all away for love.
Yeah,
you can tell that she was that important to him.
Yeah, well, and he'd even said like, I sacrificed everything. Like, if people found out about this, they would put me to death.
Yeah.
And I did that for you. And now, now I want to marry you. And now you're just saying, oh, I'm going to be your side piece. And you expect me to be cool with this?
Yeah.
Right. And then to have that guy come up to you and go, hey man, I know the deal. I know the deal. So you keep your mouth shut and I keep my mouth shut. Yeah. That would infuriate me too.
Like, I didn't see that as...
Yeah. I don't know if I turn his brains into hamburger the way that Criston Cole did.
Like, I didn't see it as like advice, like, hey man, we're in this together.
It was not.
It was
a threat.
A straight threat.
Yeah.
And I liked how in that episode 5, you saw Sir Criston Cole's sword so many times.
Yeah.
They gave a solid shot of him taking out the sword, resting it up, putting it in when what's his name? Joffrey.
Yeah.
The love interest, right, came up to him like, hey man, we're on the same team here, like you keep my secret, I keep your. I'm like, and then when he walked off, he showed the sword like lifting up and him moving out of the way. I'm like, I was expecting him to take out that sword and kill him on the spot, instantly.
On sight.
But you know what? Like that episode was framed perfectly. The storyline was great, even though it was rushed. Seeing Viserys being absolutely just torn apart from the inside out.
Yeah.
Torn apart. I've heard that the sickness that he got from that cut, that ate away his fingers and his hand looks like it's grayscale or whatever.
It does look like it's grayscale.
Apparently it's not grayscale. Okay. Apparently it's what's the word for it? It's leprosy.
Oh, okay.
Apparently it's leprosy.
Yeah, so I was going to say that the back sores when he's like unfortunately on top of Alicent and she looks completely devastated and just half devastated, half bored. Just kind of showing just the dark side and the negative to being the queen, right?
And like, her having to fill her duty.
Fill her duty, exactly. That looked like sores. That looked more like leprosy sores. Yeah. But the one on his arm in episode 5, that did start to look like grayscale.
It did. It did. So I don't know how they're going to spin. I know the showrunner said on like an interview that it was supposed to be leprosy, but we'll see if they stick with that.
Well, the question is, they don't have to be mutually exclusive, right? I mean, it could be both. Yeah. And the one thing I was thinking about is the crab feeder looked like he had grayscale.
It was confirmed that he did have grayscale. Yes.
And he did throw the hammer to him.
And Daemon did drag his body out by his hand. So I'm like, I was expecting like Daemon to have grayscale too, but apparently not. Or was the crab feeder healed? Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe he was healed by a maester or something, but I don't know, man. But going back to, you said the sex scene with the king and queen and how she was literally lying there just to do her duty, but then you see the flip of
the juxtaposition
Rhaenyra,
and how much fun Rhaenyra was having with Criston Cole.
And like, Well, first off with Damon and then
Yes.
Kristen Cole. I'm gonna be honest with you, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people I've talked to, like, they cringed
thoughts?
at that scene
Yeah.
with Damon and Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
I found it to be fucking hot and sexy as hell. Like how they portrayed it and how, like, you forgot that they were cousins.
I think that's
You forgot.
I think that's the point. I think the point is you're supposed to be uncomfortable with how kind of awesome
Yeah.
this is.
I was like, this
how
is
much
so cool.
How much this kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, when you hear them, like, yes, they are uncle and niece, which is gross.
Yes. Let's
Right?
be real here. That is
Yeah.
gross.
That's super gross. But, you know, when they talk, like, they have a rapport. They're the only ones who talk to each other in Valyrian.
Yeah, in High Valyrian,
Right?
yep.
And they've had like a very sort of long connection to each other. So it's sort of like, man, do these two kind of deserve each other? But it's also super gross. So I think that was how they were supposed to get to it, is that I think the point was to make it kind of uncomfortably hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I,
one
like
of those-
it was a great scene. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah,
Like
that's-
that was like how they filmed the first episode of the battlefield on the field and in the birthing chamber.
Yeah.
Like, great. And they did the same thing with this episode where there's sex as in doing for duty and
then-
for your realm, and sex as in temptation, pleasure, as
Yeah.
blood right.
And Damon was sort of like, yeah, man, like, fucking is fun.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he was telling, like, but then, you know,
The second she took control, he's like,
I'm out, right? This is not. And then you kind of wonder, like, was he, like, he's doing it out in the open, like he's kind of an agent of chaos, right? He kind of wants.
well, he's the lord of Flea Bottom. Like everyone knows him there.
Yeah, so he knew, like, he took off the hood, he took off her hat. He knew he wanted people to see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was for him. It might have been just about the scandal. And
Did you, in your honest opinion, when they went to the brothel, did you think he planned it for like people to spread rumors, or did you think he was just horny?
I think he's planned it.
Really?
I think he planned it because he took off his hood. If you're horny, you don't need to take off your hood and hat. Right?
True,
So,
true.
I mean, I think he was doing that. And then I think, I don't know what happens, like, if maybe when it got to that point, it's sort of, you know,
Yeah.
he just,
Because also
thought better.
an episode before, or maybe 2 episodes before, they showed that he couldn't finish.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just
Maybe-
lacking down there. That's why he got
and-
frustrated.
but the thing was, and that's what I'm wondering, is that maybe he just, you know, when it came down to game time, like, this was the plan the whole time, but when it
just
came down
camped.
to game time, no, it just, he was just like, man, this is kind of wrong. Right? Like, that confused boner kind of went down after. So
For how I saw it, I don't think he saw it as wrong. I think he was just frustrated that
yeah.
he was no longer in control.
Oh, because she okay.
Because she
yeah.
started off with her face to the wall, and
Yeah.
he had full domination.
Yeah.
And then she turned around and she started to control him.
And when she wanted it.
And when she wanted it, she was going for it, and he was fighting her.
Yeah.
And I think that, along with him being able to not get hard or not being able to finish,
Yeah.
kind of be like, made him so frustrated. He just like,
He just booked
no.
it. Yeah,
He just had to
he's
go.
out. Yeah.
So I was like, either or, your opinion or mine, they're both valid, and you can see it anyway. It's just, I was
they're-
like, it was a very powerful scene, and
Yeah. And both equally gross.
both equally gross, but it's also just like,
Yeah.
it's nice to see because it's something that guys deal with or girls deal with, whatever else, but I totally forgot that they were fucking cousins, man.
Yeah.
It
Well,
didn't cross my mind, or like,
Uncle
oh,
niece.
yeah, Uncle
Worse.
niece. It didn't cross my mind they were family. It's just
Yeah.
because I got so sucked in with how he snuck in,
Yeah. Like,
gave her the clothes, and wrote in High Valyrian, "This is how to get out of your room. This is a
Yeah.
secret passage."
Yeah. And I mean, the whole thing was just like,
He's diabolical, man.
well, in a romantic comedy, that's the perfect first date, right?
Oh,
Like, that's-
perfect, man.
Yeah, they just, you know, and then he told, you know, made her a little bit vulnerable, showed her exactly, like, you know, hey, this is what people think of you, and
Yeah.
you know, kind of made her, he made her vulnerable on top of
Yeah,
everything else.
100%.
So
And they also paid off to everything that happened to that episode before in the recent episode 5, at the wedding when Daemon walked up to Rhaenyra and they were talking in High Valyrian, and you can tell she wanted him.
Yeah,
you can be like, you have your sword, right? You're armed.
Yeah.
Why don't you cut down my the king's Kingsguard and bring me to Dragonstone and make me your wife?
Yeah.
And
I think she was almost daring him. Like, you know what? You talk a lot of game, but
do it. Like, let's see you do it. And then all of a sudden they disappeared and you started hearing screams. I thought he went for it.
Yeah.
I thought he went for it. But no, man, it was Sir Kristen Cole pounding in Joffrey's head.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was... Yeah, speaking of gross.
When he was done and then you saw literally like ground beef and then he turned it.
You saw his eye socket was caved in. Oh,
that was rough.
Yeah,
man. That was absolute. But I'm glad that you can see the sex, you can see the nudity, you can see the temptation, the violence, the pure violence.
Well, no, and then you got to see like after there was a juxtaposition of sort of the three sides of sex, right? Because after that, like she was with Kristen Cole, and that was the picturesque sort of vision of what you think sex is.
Yes.
You know, like your knight in shining armor.
Literally.
Takes 45 minutes to take up. Man,
I'd be so pissed, bro.
You got to really want that D, man, if you're going to be taking 45 minutes to take that armor off.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. Like, first off, you'd hear a ting, and then by the time the armor got off, it'd be like, that was 45 minutes of me trying to unclothe myself, man. I don't know if I'm good now.
Yeah. So, yeah. But then you saw them, like, they're unlacing their boots, and it's taking forever, but they're laughing throughout the whole thing, right? It's sort of your ideal what sort of a naive, sort of innocent person might sort of picture sex to be.
I also see it as like a bonding session for them.
And it was awkward, like most first sexual encounters are.
It was supposed to be... Okay, one thing I did not like, and this is probably the only thing I don't like, well, maybe not the only thing, but one thing I really didn't like about that episode was she was supposed to be a virgin, but she did not look like one.
She knew
what she was doing, man. I was like, what? I was like, no, that can't be. That cannot be. I'm like, of course it's for storytelling and this and that, because they don't want the scene to be awkward, because they want you to feel invested. They want you to feel connected. And if she was just awkward and a twig, I'd be like, okay, it would take you out of it. But so I understand why. But the back of my head, I was like, bro, nah.
Yeah, you're right.
Nah.
You're right. You're picking nits, but you're right.
Yeah, I'm definitely picking nits. I was like, nah, man, that's not true, man. But anyways, moving forward, what do you hope to see for the rest of the season? Now that we have 5 more episodes to go, we're doing a 10-year time jump. Between episode 5 and 6, where before it was just a 1-year time jump.
Right.
But now we're doing 10 years. We're moving along here.
Yeah.
So what do you hope to see? What do you expect to see?
So my biggest question, and it's sort of, I'm not gonna say fear, because they've won me over with these 5 episodes. So I've got faith in the showrunners. I've got faith in the people who are putting this show together. But the one thing is, we are going to see new actors for Rhaenyra, and we're going to see a new actor for Alicent. And it took me 5 episodes to fall in love with the two actors who played those 2 characters. So I'm hoping that we don't get a little bit of Aunt Viv 2 syndrome.
Oh
here,
yeah,
where it's man, I like Millie Alcock better than the new one, right?
Yep.
So that's sort of my main concern coming out of it. It's gonna be really interesting to see sort of, how the events. Well, first of all, is Viserys dead? Because he sort of just dropped. I'm guessing 10 years from now.
If you saw the trailer,
I did not see the trailer for episode 6. Is he dead?
No, he's alive.
Oh,
but he's bald. He's he's got the halo going, bro.
Oh, really?
Like he looks rough.
Yeah.
Absolutely rough, man.
So yeah, I mean, whether he was dead or he's basically invalid, he's not going to be, and it's a fairly public setting. I mean, there's not a lot of people, but people are going to hear about that, and he's not the bastion of strength that he was sort of hiding. Like, he was trying to be that, right? Right? You want people to fear that there's an appropriate level of fear that people have to have in the king. And if you're withered and you're old and you're sickly, you don't project that power. And that is not a great thing when there are moving pieces on that chessboard, right? Like, where does Otto Hightower now fit in? Like, how are they still, trying to maneuver Aegon into into
being the next heir.
Yeah, into being the spot of the heir. We're going to see Aegon now because Aegon's no longer going to be a baby. Right?
Yeah, he's going to be a full teenage boy now.
Yeah, so we're going to see that. So I'm going to be very interested to see that. And then Daemon's an agent of chaos. It's always going to be great to see where his story goes. Like where do Rhaenyra and Laenor sort of end up? Because that deal that they sort of struck with each other, it was sort of conditional on when they made that they both had,
they both had a side piece.
They both had their pieces in place. Now, for different reasons, they're both probably gone. Right? Like Kristen Cole cannot still be in the Knight's Guard, right? In the King's Guard.
Do you want me to tell you? Because they showed in the trailer.
Okay, so yeah, let me know.
So essentially, at the very end of episode 5, he's about to kill himself.
Yeah, he's about to seppuku himself.
Yeah, and then Alicent Hightower says his name, and then it like fades to black.
Yeah.
In the trailer, they're now a team.
Oh.
He's now switched sides.
Okay.
Rhaenyra has 3 children, all of brown hair.
Oh.
And I forget the new hand of the king. What's it? Do you have his name by any chance?
No, I don't.
Something strong.
Yeah, strong armor, strong hand.
Yeah, something strong. The guy in episode 5 that picks her up from the fight and carries her over, he's the alleged new side piece.
Oh.
And those 3 kids are
his
kids, but they say that they're not his kids.
Yeah.
They're Targaryen kids.
Yeah, or Valyrian kids.
Yeah, Valyrian kids, right? So it's like there's that. So you know that at least. So, but continue on.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see where. Like, I want to see where these politics happen. Like, I remember that they were negotiating that. Okay, these kids will be born Valyrians, and they'll all be Valyrians. But once one of them takes the throne, they're going to take the throne as a Targaryen. Like, I wonder if that's enough. If that's enough for Corlys, because Corlys was.
Did you like that deal?
I think it was a great compromise. I think Corlys was trying to get. I mean, Corlys tried to put him in a corner, and say like, "Hey, man, in Westeros and in traditions, you take the father's name. The father's name is Valyrian.
Yep.
Is that?" And then he said, "You know what? You're right. At birth, they'll be Valyrians, but the throne is a Targaryen throne." So I did like the way that sort of maneuvered. We'll see how it sticks. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. What did you think of that?
I really enjoyed that scene. It showed that the king was put in a hard. He was put in a hard spot.
Yeah,
the king should never go to someone's house. You should be going to the king's house.
Yeah.
So the fact that he showed up,
he was already
showed up at your doorstep, and you didn't come to the door to say hi.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of that is
insult.
Yeah.
And then he had to come up. And then he started calling, "Oh, do you want?" Like he didn't even offer. There was no chair there for him.
Yeah.
He made him stand.
Yeah.
He made him present his offer.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Okay, I got a question."
Yeah.
So he wanted to make sure that his eggs were all in different baskets and they were all properly named, and he knew what was going to happen. So it wasn't just a mystery.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. For what I hope to see is. I hope to see because it's going to be Team Green versus Team Black, and that's how they named it in the books.
Yeah.
When Alicent walked in
with that green
mid speech, when he was about to say House Targaryen and House
Valyrian,
and then he paused.
Yeah.
Because he saw her. I was like, yo, first off, she walked in at the right time,
like a G.
And then she stole the spotlight.
Yeah.
First off, not wearing the king's colors.
Yeah.
Wearing her colors.
Yeah.
And then you hear the background of the Strong brothers saying, "Oh, when they're calling to arms, they light their tower green."
Yeah, we go to war. That's our war colors.
And then the first people who stand up are her house.
Yeah.
The Hightower house. I'm like, okay, so she's setting precedent that my son is going to be the next heir.
Yeah.
And then when she walked up to the table, "Hello, stepdaughter," or I'm like,
yeah,
damn,
flexing, immediately flexing. You're not princess. You're not queen to be.
You're the step
You're
kid.
my stepdaughter.
Like that. I'm like, whoa, that is crazy.
The little innocent baby Alicent is gone.
Yeah, she stole the spotlight from me
because she went to bat for Rhaenyra, and then now she found out from Kristen Cole that
let's be real here. She did not lie. She asked him if you slept with Damon. She said, I did not sleep with Damon. I promise you.
Yeah.
She did not sleep with Damon.
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm like, but I can tell that she was mad because she also didn't tell the truth.
Yeah, that's one of those Lionel Hutz style, the truth, or the truth.
Yeah, you told a version of the truth, but not the whole thing.
No, you didn't lie, but you didn't tell the truth.
Yeah, it's just it was. So I understand why she's mad.
Yeah.
So I want to see more of the houses and the division and everything that's going to happen in the next five episodes. And like you said, next episode we're getting new actors for characters that we already fell in love with.
Yeah. So,
and I'm gonna be honest with you, falling in love with two of the main characters in only 5 episodes is a big achievement for a TV show.
Huge. And like I said,
big achievement.
Yeah. And I was kind of wishy-washy on them after one episode. So for them to sort of win me over in 2 to 5,
that's a win.
Yeah. When I'm already kind of trepidatious about them because of their, because of the first episode. Because going into it, I was like, man, I don't know. Yeah.
Right? It was like an off kind of feeling.
Yeah, and it was probably because they were trying to portray younger, significantly younger than who they were and how they looked.
And you could tell like how they filmed it too. They filmed the with the lens higher than them, so they was looking down. But now they're like eye level or a little bit lower to present the height or whatever. But I totally agree with you that the next episode has to be a banger of an episode for those two for their introduction.
Yeah, and
they have to sell them right away. If not, it's going to be episode 1 where okay, blah, blah, blah. And then episode 7 where technically episode 2 for them is going to be freaking hype.
I have faith they will, but at the same time, it's going to be interesting to see how they sort of convey that transition, right? You have to tell the audience, hey, Rhaenyra looks different because it's a different person, but this is still Rhaenyra, right? It's, like I said, it's the Aunt Viv syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Sort of.
So I'm also assuming the actors that play Rhaenyra, the younger and older, they're acting similar to each other. So the same mannerisms, same speech, same everything. So it feels the same, but now it's just an older person.
So here's the thing. I read an interview with them, and what I read was actually that the actors who played Rhaenyra, young Rhaenyra and I guess older Rhaenyra, and young Alicent and older Alicent, they actually did not talk to each other.
No way.
Because they didn't want them to. They actually, looking at the script and looking at the way the story develops, they actually didn't want them to sort of know how each other played the character, because what we're going to see is 10 years from now, they are completely different people.
That makes sense. That makes sense. You're technically a different person after 6 months, right? Like you can be a different person even within. So that makes sense. Yeah. Good point. Very good point.
Yeah. That was interesting to hear, but because there are times when you would, sort of talk to and work with the actors. If you're all playing the same character at different ages, you would typically kind of work in concert with each other. But apparently here, the characters do complete switches of their characters.
Oh,
so
okay. I can't wait to see that.
That's going to be something I was going to say that I'm going to be interested to see how that develops.
Also, another thing that I hope to see, and I'm assuming we're going to be seeing, is a death in the last episode. I'm telling you right now, the king is going to drop at episode 10.
Yeah,
it's a must because season 2, there's 2 sides. Yeah. It's going to be a brawl from here on out. Yeah. So I'm assuming there's going to be a Ned Stark moment at episode 10 where he dies and now the battle lines are drawn.
Otto Hightower said it best, right? It might be months, it might be years, but the king is going to die, and he's not going to live to old age. So.
And you need to be ready.
Yeah. And so in past seasons of Game of Thrones, that sort of big thing always tended to happen in episode 9, and then episode 10 would set the table for
the next
what's
season.
Going to happen. Because Red Wedding was episode 9, the beheading of Ned Stark was episode 9. So
do you think it's going to be episode 9 or episode? I think it's going to be 10. You think it's episode 9?
I think it's going to be 9, and then I think 10 will set the table for what we are going to see in season 2.
Oh, I think you're right, but I'm gonna place a bet on 10.
Okay,
I'm gonna place a bet on 10 where you see him die, and then you see them fight over his body, and then you see the house is just starting to split and this and that, and then black, and then we wait another year for season 2.
2 years, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably.
18 months.
Yeah, but hey, overall though, what is your honest rating?
Okay, so I'm always Mr. 10 out of 10.
Yes.
I will say, I say that jokingly with a lot of stuff. It's got to be a 9.5. Like, this show has been really good. This show, it's brought me right back into that world. Like, I feel now after episode 5 how I felt after episode 5 of seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of Game of Thrones. Like, I am into this world. Like, everything about, like, even the little idiosyncrasies that we see, like, that Jason Lannister is still a bit of a shithead, right? Like, the Lannisters
I like how
changed.
that guy plays 2 different Lannisters.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, the Lannisters are still kind of dicks, right? Even if they're
that's why women can't go to war, because
Yeah.
they won't be there on time.
Yeah.
Like, you're a dick, bro.
What an a-hole,
You're
right?
a
Like,
dick.
Like, you don't even have the power of the Lannisters 200 years from now.
Don't
and you
even
act
make that joke. That's so funny, though.
Yeah, you act like that.
Oh,
So,
God. That was a good scene. That was good.
yeah. So little things like that. I mean, having the crab feeder there as sort of a semi sort of villain to set the stage to show just how powerful they are. Just cheering for people who are not good people. Like, I'm all in on this season. So it's fully brought me back into the world of Westeros, a world that I loved and that I was heartbroken that ended in the way that it did.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
I'm giving this like an 8.5 to 9.
Yeah.
Like, this is very high on the scale. The only reason why I'm not giving it the full 10 out of 10 is because it's not done yet.
Yeah. Okay. So
But right now, like, they're averaging like 9 per
Yeah.
episode.
They have
100%, dude.
yeah, every episode has just knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely
right?
great. Absolutely great, man. And it, like, they set you up right in the beginning when you hear the theme.
Yeah.
The theme just gets you into the mood
It
right
does.
away. You're like, oh, that feels good. And then you get so excited and fate's black. And then you see like, oh, you see sky.
Yeah.
Am I going to see a dragon? Is it going to pan down? This and that. And you
Yeah.
see it. You're like, oh, man, it's great. So, like, they get you in the show right at the first second. If they continue to do that with me, this will be a perfect 10 out of 10. Right now it's a 9 only because I don't know what's going to happen episode 6.
Sure.
Are they going to flop? Or
That-
is it going to be like building like episode 1, then episode 7 is going to be like, oh, I
Yeah.
really like these 2 now, this and that, right? So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. But overall, man, this is House of the Dragon. Hot D is some really good stuff right now.
Yeah.
And I really recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, whether you're, and that's the thing, is that it's almost been a unanimous thing that I've seen. Whether you're someone who is deep into the lore, like you have read every George R.R. Martin book, you understand everything. Like, from someone like that to somebody who even like Noslin, who has never seen Game of Thrones, I think there's a unanimous level of enjoyment here. Whatever your previous sort of experiences with the world of Westeros, you are going to enjoy this show. And so I cannot recommend it enough. If you haven't watched it yet, thank you for listening to this episode.
Yes, thank you very much.
But yeah, you probably should have watched the episodes before you hopped onto this, because there is no expiration date to listening to us. So.
Oh, no, definitely not. So yet again, you should be watching those episodes right away.
But yeah.
But overall, man, like, great show.
Yeah.
Absolutely great. I cannot wait to talk about the rest of the season. I cannot wait to see the rest of the season. It's going to be amazing television.
Yeah, my biggest regret basically has been that we kickstarted and we sort of ended our hiatus 4 weeks too late. It would have been nice to do episodic reviews of this, but we banged out the first
if we
5.
have time, we can do it.
Yeah,
if we have time, we'll do it.
We banged out the first 5. We're going to try to do. Well, we'll aim for that, and we'll see how the things go.
Yeah.
We still haven't decided on the formatting yet and the frequency, but
We'll get there.
If we can bang these out weekly, it'll be
good.
It'll be ideal.
Yeah, but anyways, everyone, thank you so much for listening on today's episode of the Unhinged Vibes podcast. Yet again, I'm Mr. Caramel Thunder, and I'm here with
Coast, your boy Coast Dynasty. Oh, I'm rusty. I haven't done this in a while. You can find me at Coast Dynasty on Instagram.
And you can find me at Caramel Thunder on Instagram. You can find both of us and Noslin at Unhinged Vibes on Instagram as well. Make sure you tune in. If you really like this show, if you really like our podcast, if you like our conversations, please follow us on your podcast provider. Please follow us on YouTube. Please like our videos and let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on the first 5 episodes of the House of the Dragon. What you want to see. If you like it, give us a like. If not, that's fine. Let us know what we need to work on, because trust me, we're not perfect. But yet again, we just want to have a conversation with you. We just want to have a conversation with you. But anyways, folks, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Unhinged Vibes Podcast. We'll see you guys in part 2 when we talk about Rings of Power. See you then.